This talk is basically a talk on the geography of Mahabharata, but we have titled it so that there is a common thread, which is actually a very important aspect. That a common thread surprisingly happened to be Sri Rama, who is present in the Rigveda in the 10th mandala. And of course, Valmiki Ramayana is all about Sri Rama. And to my surprise, when I am writing the third book, Geography of Mahabharata, I can see a lot of connect with Sri Rama again, where we consider the figure Sri Rama as a kind of a connecting thread, which runs starting from Rigveda to Valmiki Ramayana to Mahabharata. And we will explore the various aspects related to how the Rama has influenced, or the signature of Rama's influence in the Mahabharata. All these aspects we will explore. Of course, Sri Rama's lifetime is mentioned in past tense. That is, the events related to the Rama's lifetime that has occurred in the past of Pandu and Yudhishthira. And he is basically an influencer inside the Valmiki, inside the Mahabharata. And there is definitely a kind of mini Ramayana within the Mahabharata, which is in the Vanaparva, and it is very well structured, 18 adhyayas. So 18 adhyayas is very important in the Mahabharata, because the entire Mahabharata have 18 parvas. And within the Mahabharata, the core, that is in the Bhishma Parva, we have the Bhagavad Gita, again 18 chapters, 18 adhyayas. Similarly, just like in the Bhishma Parva, you have Bhagavad Gita of 18 chapters. You have Upakhyana, that is Rama's history, in the Vanaparva of Mahabharata, which is 18 chapters, 18 adhyayas. And it's a kind of a pleasure for me to be part of the talks related to the Indus University. Professor Ram Sharma have been a very long patron and supporter of my research. And I have done many talks earlier on different topics. And one of them I remember, which I went directly to Ahmedabad to the university campus, is about dharma and science, because there are a lot of mistrust between dharma and science, and there is a kind of conflicts. There are people who consider dharma and science as very different and separate. And within this series of geochronology, that is, after I wrote my books on the Rigveda and Ramayana and Mahabharata, there was a series of talks, and this is the fourth talk in that series. The first talk, an overview of all the three books, and then a specific talk on the first book, the Rivers of Rigveda, and the second one on the geography of Ramayana. And this talk is basically a talk on the geography of Mahabharata, but we have titled it so that there is a common thread, which is actually a very important aspect. That a common thread surprisingly happened to be Sri Rama, who is present in the Rigveda in the 10th mandala. And of course, Valmiki Ramayana is all about Sri Rama. And to my surprise, when I am writing the third book, Geography of Mahabharata, I can see a lot of connect with Sri Rama again inside the Mahabharata. So that's the kind of a title of this particular session, where we consider the figure Sri Rama as a kind of a connecting thread, which runs starting from Rigveda to Valmiki Ramayana to Mahabharata. And we will explore the various aspects related to how the Rama has influenced, or the signature of Rama's influence in the Mahabharata. All these aspects we will explore into the book. Having said that, I have used the slides, which are actually the general in nature general in for all the geography of Mahabharata studies. Some of the lectures I have done in some other universities, 1 hour lectures. So, but it will be completely structured, focused on these connections. That is from Valmiki Ramayana to Mahabharata kind of connection. So, having said that, let us go through the different slides and also describe this the most important aspect of how is Rama coming up and becoming a part of Mahabharata as an influencer. Of course, Sri Rama's lifetime is mentioned in past tense. That is, the events related to the Rama's lifetime that has occurred in the past of Pandu and Yudhishthira. And he is basically an influencer inside the Valmiki, inside the Mahabharata. And there is definitely a kind of mini Ramayana within the Mahabharata, which is in the Vanaparva, and it is very well structured, 18 adhyayas. So 18 adhyayas is very important in the Mahabharata because the entire Mahabharata have 18 parvas. And within the Mahabharata, the core that is in the Bhishma Parva, we have the Bhagavad Gita, again 18 chapters, 18 adhyayas. Similarly, just like in the Bhishma Parva, you have Bhagavad Gita of 18 chapters. You have Upakhyana, that is Rama's history, in the Vanaparva of Mahabharata, which is 18 chapters, 18 adhyayas. So we have Ramayana within the Mahabharata as well. Now let us focus on the slides. So this is a particular map which is actually a Valmiki Ramayana specific map. But how it comes into the Mahabharata is because I have re-evaluated or made a test case or retested the whatever location assumptions, location discoveries we have made inside the second book, Geography of Ramayana, whether that they are all holding true in the sub-narrative of Ramopakhyana inside the Mahabharata. And to my surprise, everything was corroborated. And for example, the Ramayana narrative inside the Mahabharata is narrated by a sage called Markandeya. And Markandeya introduces himself to Yudhishthira, who was present inside who was doing the Vanavasa, the 12 years of forest life as part of the conditions set by the Kauravas. So he was living there. And at that time, the sage Markandeya comes and tells to this Yudhishthira that I have seen another individual, another prince like you, who was actually because of the circumstances in the life, he was roaming around in the forest just like you, and in a very terrible situation. And I was very young at that time. It was just the verse mentioned young ages, so I consider it as something like a teenage, like some 15 years of age of Markandeya. That Rama is roaming very sadly in the Rishyamukha mountain area. That is Rishyamukha here. So in the Rishyamukha mountain area, Rama is roaming because in search of his wife Sita, and he was just roaming around in that Kishkinda territory and trying to meet Sugriva and Hanuman. So that kind of a situation I have seen Rama. And now I am seeing you, Yudhishthira. You are also in the similar kind of a situation in a very difficult part of your life. And this time, Markandeya is a very old age. He was extremely old. And my calculations, when I do the calculations, the Markandeya, when he met Yudhishthira, was very close to 100 years of age. So this is a kind of very surprising information inside the Valmiki Ramayana, that there is an individual who have actually met Rama in the young ages and Pandavas or Yudhishthira in the older ages, very close to 100 years of age. And this also gives you a kind of clarity about the chronology, like there are individuals who have interacted with both Rama and Pandavas. And surprisingly, most of these individuals they are actually in their younger ages when they met Rama, and in older ages when they met Pandavas. Another person is Hanuman. He also mentioned as meeting Rama for the first time in the Krishyamukha mountain region when Rama was coming to meet Sugriva. The Hanuman was the interceptor. He comes and intercept Rama to find out whether he is a good person or not, whether he is a spy of Bali, etc. So again, there also a very clear indication that he was in very young age, which I consider, in my calculation, I considered something like a 20 years of age. And then later in the Mahabharata, he meets this Bhimasena. So just like Markandeya meets Yudhishthira, Hanuman meets the second Pandava, that is Bhimasena. Again, there is mentioned this Hanuman is a Vruddhavanara, that is, he is a very, very old person, like very close to 100 years of age, hardly able to wake up. No, that kind of. So very clear chronological signatures between Rama and the Pandavas are slowly emerging. And we see a lot of other individuals who have been part of the Rama's lifetime as well as the Pandavas' lifetime. Just like I mentioned now about Markandeya and about Hanuman, both of them meeting Rama in the very young ages and meeting Pandavas in the extreme old age. And by some calculation, it comes to 100 to 120 years, but in some others, it's like very close to 100 years. So 120 year also is very reasonable because we have seen in modern world people have the oldest person have lived 140 years, etc. So 120 is not a big problem at all. If out of thousands of people, if one or two people live for 120 years, it's actually reasonable and very much historically plausible. So that's and historical plausibility is a very important condition where I don't deviate from that historical plausibility. So some people say that no, why you are worrying this much? Because the Hanuman is a Chiranjeevi or Markandeya is a Chiranjeevi. So, but we cannot use those arguments of Chiranjeevi. These are all poetical concepts, right? We cannot use the poetical exaggerations or such concepts into historical analysis. We are not trying to convince the devotees or the people who already subscribe to the Valmiki Ramayana or Mahabharata. We are actually debating or discussing it with people who question Ramayana and Mahabharata as a historical narrative. They typically their attitude is that these are all poetic imaginations, and there is nothing truth in it. That it is completely a kind of a fable, a story, made up story without any historicity, etc. So there, when we are actually discussing or interacting with these people, and our objective is to prove the historicity of Rama and the Pandavas, we cannot come and say no, they are Chiranjeevis, etc. No, that is very good in a poetry. Like Ramayana and Mahabharata are poetry, no, that they are actually kavyas or like that. So there is no denying that. So what we are basically saying that there are historical elements as a backbone, like you are having a human being, a human body have skeletons, and of course along with the skeletons you have muscles, you have flesh, you have fat, you have skin, but the skeleton is the backbone. So similarly, Mahabharata and Ramayana are poetry. So the authors of Ramayana and Mahabharata, they have taken liberties to actually have a lot of imaginative things, like the Vanaras are treated as monkeys, and the others like Jatayu and Sampati, they are described as birds. So these are poetic liberties. Poetic. So these are we say that we accept it. The poetic liberties we accept it, but the historical core, the skeleton, there they are actually individuals. Because there is a we can test that hypothesis because in one instance we have seen one interesting verse where it comes to Sugriva communicating to the Sri Rama. Suddenly the poet says that the Sugriva assumed a human voice and started speaking like a human being. So basically the poet knows that the Sugriva is a human being, but he is trying to make it as a kind of a poetic play because he already told you that he is a monkey. No, so that whenever there is an interaction, he has to explain how Sugriva can interact with Rama. No, that So there is a sort of some kind of a giveaways where the real the real human like nature of these individual characters or these individuals are revealed. And even the word terminology vanara, it actually a meaning is a question. It is a Sanskrit question. Vanara, is he a human? So that is the real question. So basically, the question comes up because the people of Gangatic Valley, that like Sri Rama or anybody in the Ganga basin, like Kuru, Panchala, Kashi, Kosala territories. So they went in their expeditions, they went southwards and they saw people in the Vindhya ranges. So they have a different culture, different custom. So automatically, question comes: Vanara, are they humans? So that term, that are they humans, automatically become a name of a tribe, and that become the Vanara. So they are all human beings. And again, you can test that hypothesis because there were certain expeditions, just like towards the Vindhyas in the south, there were expeditions to the north, and there were people who saw people in the Himalayan region. So then they asked, Kim Nara, are they humans? Kim Nara means are they humans? Exactly similar like Vanara. They surprise in a surprise exclamation because of the cultural differences. The way they dress, everything is different in the Himalayas. Kimnara. So that become another terminology for another tribe, the Kinnara tribe. So Kinnaras are living in the Himalayas, Vanaras are living in the Vindhya mountains. Between Vindhya and the Himalayas is the Indo-Gangetic plain. And there the people who are familiar with that culture consider themselves as the normal human beings. And anybody who is in the Himalayas, they are considered as outside of that Indo-Gangetic plain culture, and they are called Kimnaras. And whoever is in the south, in the Vindhya mountains, they have a different culture. They are called Vanaras. So basically, this is how the terminologies initially like exclamatory questions automatically turned into the names for the tribe. So Kinnara are the Himalayan cultural people, and Vanara are the Vindhya cultural people. So that way we will be able to see how you have a core of the history, core of Ramayana and Mahabharata. We have a kind of a historical backbone, and the remaining thing, the poetry, everything that can be considered as the flesh and the muscles. The muscles are something like your philosophy, which is basically the philosophy of dharma, which is the most important part. So many people ask me as a, no, you are as a researcher, are you not focused on the dharmic messages? Certainly, I am focused on that. My next book is about Sanatana Dharma. But actually, when we focus on the geography and the chronology, we just are focused. That's the only thing. Doesn't mean that we are not caring about the dharmic messages inside the Ramayana and Mahabharata. When I am doing a research and focused on the geography and chronology, I will focus on that. That is a natural thing to do. But when I am focusing on the dharmic aspects, so I will look at the dharmic philosophies and etc. If I am focused on the poetry, then I will use the poetic meter. All these are written in authored in Anushtup meter. So the beauty of the Anushtup poetry, all these things I will be focusing. So it depends upon the focus of the person. Are you focusing on the kavya aspects, the poetic beauty, the literature quality, or are you focused on the geography or the chronology, which are like factual based, data oriented analysis, or are you focused on the philosophy? So the all the rishi munis of Bharata, all the everybody is focused on the philosophy part of it, and the common person they are focused on the bhakti, the devotion aspect of the idihasas. So this is I am giving a basic introduction, and I move to the other slides. So I'm just showing you the kind of intensity of the geographic analysis that we have done. So all these different slides, which I use for this course as a course material for geography of Mahabharata. So just like this is about the sub-narrative Rama Upakhyana inside the Mahabharata, this geographical slide is basically on this uh, the Jayadratha's abduction of Sita. So that Jayadratha's abduction of Sita is the trigger event. because just like the Jayadratha's abduction of Draupadi is it the so while this Yudhishthira was living or Pandavas were living inside the forest, just like Ravana came and abducted Sita, the king Jayadratha, who is the husband of Dushala. So Dushala is a sister of the Pandavas from the Kaurava side. So Duryodhana's sister Dushala's husband. Jayadratha came and abducted the this Sita, Draupadi. So that was the trigger event. Of course, the Pandavas chased Jayadratha, and then Bhima captured him and made him, I mean, removed all his hair. Because of that, no, that, and after that, there was a conversation like, why I'm suffering all this? Like, I was already suffering because the Duryodhana made me live in the forest, and I'm living for in the forest, supposed to live for 12 years in the forest. And while I'm living here, there is somebody coming and abducting my wife. So, is there any other king who has suffered this kind of misery and humiliation? So that is the context in which the Markandeya comes and tells and start talking about the sub narrative Rama Upakhyana inside the Mahabharata. And that is what we are seeing in this slide. So that entire narrative of Rama, his travel from Ayodhya to Nandi Grama, and from there to Sringiverapura and Bharadwajachrama, then Chitrakuda, Viradha's connecting killing of Viradha, then Sharabangasrama, Shudikshanasrama, and then he is going along Asrama Mandala, hundreds of rishis, rishi munis, and finally coming to Agastya Asrama. From there he goes to Panchavadi, all these things. Then he comes and the Siddha's abduction happened. Then he comes to Kabandha, the location of Kabandha. And from Kabandha he get information to go to Rishyamukha, where he meets this Sugriva and Hanuman. And by discussing with them, he kills Bali and then get the support of Sugriva, and then along with the Vanaras, support of the Vanaras like Angada and Hanuman and Jambavan, he goes to Lanka, and then there is a fight happens, and then he gets back Sita and return back to Ayodhya. So that entire narrative is the Valmiki Ramayana narrative is present inside the Mahabharata as an Ramopakhyana of 18 chapters. And Markandeya tells about all these things in the context of Jayadratha coming and abducting Draupadi. And that in that conversation after that, no, that event, after Draupadi is rescued and then Jayadratha is punished, then this conversation happens, and then about the Sri Rama's discussion happens. So these are the two consecutive slides that I mentioned, but there are so many slides in the book Geography of Mahabharata. This is the Tirtha Yatra of Duryodhana to insult the Pandavas, and the Gandharvas coming and attacking the Duryodhana and capturing him, and the place where Bhima saw the snake. There is a conversation of Nahusha Prashna, the conversation between Yudhishthira and the snake. All this you can see, and here you can see the travel of the Pandavas into the Yaksha domain, and he sees Vaisravana there. So again, Vaisravana should again bring that information, because who is Vaisravana? Vaisravana is a step brother of Ravana. So again, you get another, as earlier I mentioned about this Markandeya meeting Rama in the old young ages, in the younger than 20 years of age. Then Markandeya meets Rama, and then between 100 to 120 years of age, he meets Yudhishthira. And Hanuman also, younger than 20 years, he meets Rama. And between 100 and 120 years, he meets the Bhima. And similarly, the third person is the Vaisravana. He is basically the stepbrother of this Ravana. Again, he comes and interact with the Pandavas. Within the 12 years of Pandavas Vanavasa, 5 years spent with Vaisravana, in the domain of Vaisravana, actually. That is another interesting. So there are a lot of things. So here, this is like the locations where Arjuna came and fought with many asuras, Daitya Pura and Hiranyapura, for supporting Indra. And this is the Vaisravana city, Indra city, all this Meru peak. Basically, that is another name. The Kailas, Meru, all these are in the Tibet, Kailas, Tibet region, Kailas Manasarovar region in the Tibet. All these are actually described in the book. And similarly, there are so much of information how the Pandavas traveled from Badari and passing through Vrishabharma, Pasrama, reach the Yaksha domains of Vaisravana and very close to Kailas Manasarova range, Manasarova region. They lived for 5 years with Vaisravana. The Pandava Janmastan, that the Shadopandalik, all these things. That is Shadasringa mountain, all this. And this is the place where this Hanuman is also living as a tapasvi. And when from Badari, where Hanuman traveled northwards in search of the Saugandhika Pushpa, and then Hanuman is intercepting him and then giving a direction towards Saugandhika, the Alaga city nearby, that is again ruled by Vaisravana. All these details you can see in the book Geography of Mahabharata. And there the very long travels of the Pandavas towards the Kailas, not just before climbing the Himalayas, they were traveling to the foothills of the Himalayas, and they were doing a pilgrimage like this through to Saraswati River, pilgrimage to Saraswati River, and then various other places. So this is the entire route map of Yudhishthira's pilgrimage, where he goes to Dravida, and then also meet Krishna in the Dwaraka region. Now these are all like that. Now these are all travel narratives of like Yudhishthira. How they starting from Kamyagavana, how they traveled to east and then south and then again west and then north. That and similar to the Rama Upakhyana, there is Nala Upakhyana. So all the places related to Nala also in the book we have noted. And some of the places mentioned in the Valmiki Ramayana you can find in the Nalobakhyana, like Asrama Mandala, the place where Rama met hundreds of rishis. That Asrama Mandala is mentioned in Nalobakhyana also. Damayanti is traveling through this Asrama Mandala and the Dandakaranya and then reaching Cheli, where he got asylum. Damayanti got asylum, and then finally she found out that Chedi's Rajmata is actually a sister of his mother, and then because of that they send back her to this Vidarbha in the Maharashtra, and Avanti is there, Nishatha is there, the Nala's kingdom. Avanti is again a location where the southern Dakshinapada comes and meets. So this is the Dakshinapada road, all these things. And this is the Arjuna Paigamana, the Arjuna coming and going into the Kailas. So because of before that, he comes and reach the top of a mountain called Indragila. From there, he is airlifted in a Vimana and reaching the Kailas Manasarovar region. So there is so many. This is the Dwaraka and this Salva attack on Dwaraka. All this, then this is the kind of how the Pandavas from this Indraprastha reached Hastinapura, and from there they got banished into the Vana, that is Kamyaka Vana and Dvaita Vana, all these things. And here you can see the Digvijaya of Sahadeva. The southern Digvijaya of Sahadeva in search of iron. We know the South India was very strong at iron, and there was 3000 BC iron, etc. So Sahadeva came southwards in search of iron. And again, very interesting, very close to since our discussion is about this Rama's influence. Again, you can see here Sahadeva actually at this point, this is the Brigukaksha or Baroj. He sent a messenger to Vibhishana at Lanka. So, of course, my positioning of Lanka is not the Sri Lanka. And this is one of the reasons, because Sahadeva coming and close to the northern shore of Narmada and sent a messenger towards Lanka and towards Vibhishana. So again, you have another data point where after Vaisravana, I already mentioned, Vibhishana is another individual who is there interacting with Rama and indirectly interacting with Sahadeva, because we don't see Sahadeva meeting Vibhishana, but sending a messenger to Vibhishana. and that messenger is their messengers are sent from Bhrigugaksha, Baroj. And that's another interesting connecting to the Valmiki Ramayana. So you can see this is Sadeva's southern journey, and he going to Dandakaranya and other places, and coming to Bhrigugacha. But it is mentioned as Barukacha, that is Baroch. From there, he sent a messenger to Lanka, and that time Vibhishana was ruling there. All this information is in Mahabharata. I'm not talking about Ramayana here. It is talking about Mahabharata actually. Everything, including about I talked about Hanuman. It is about Mahabharata. I talked about Markandeya again about it is in Mahabharata. I talked about Vaishravana. He is in Mahabharata. I am talking about Vibhishana. He is again in Mahabharata. This is not we are not talking about Ramayana here like that. And this is the Nagula Digvijaya towards the western side, where he goes up to Afghanistan, etc. And there is another Digvijaya of this. Okay, this is the Maya Sabha, that is Pandava city and the Maya Sabha here, towards the close to the Yamuna river, and the Yojana distance, how it is matching. So for all these things, you have to go through the book Geography of Mahabharata, where all these things are very clearly mentioned. And yeah, Maya getting the material for collecting the this Maya Sabha from the Himalayan region. That is also very clear. So again, this is Nagula Digvijaya's, the west going to westwards, all these things. Okay. You can see, yeah. This particular map is related to Arjuna's pilgrimage. So it is very similar to Yudhishthira's pilgrimage. Everything like he reaching up to Kalinga and then going to Gokarna. The Manipura, the city from where Arjuna married Chitrangada, is a Kalinga city. Whereas the next wife, that is Subhadra, he marry from Dwaraka. So that is two different seaport in the east and west. You can see the Manipura here. This is the starting point of Arjuna Digvijaya. Anga Vanga Kalinga, like that he traveling. Kalinga Rashtra Dwara, that is the Vaitarani river, very close to Vaitarani river. All these are very clearly mentioned actually. This is how the Arjuna starting from Indraprastha and reaching Ganga Dwara. This is where the Arjuna's second wife Ulupi was in the Ganga Dwara, but it is today's name is Haridwar, very famous Haridwar. This Ganga Dwara is nothing but Haridwar, like that. Yeah. And yeah, this is the Bhima Digvijaya. So this is another point where I have to talk about this the related to Rama and Ramayana. So you can see the Bhima is actually did a Digvijaya towards northern side, eastern side. That is from Indraprastha to east he traveled. So obviously you can see Ayodhya here. So here is Indraprastha. So Bhima passed through Panjala and all these different kingdoms. And then he came to Chedi, after Panjala, he go to Dasharna and then Chedi, like that, and then reaches these places. And the Sringaverapura, the Nishada Raja is defeated by Bhima. So this Nishada Raja should be descendant of that Guha, the friend of Rama. And he directly go to this Ayodhya. So he meets Brihat Bala here. So this is the point I want to talk about. So Brihat Bala is a descendant of Sri Rama. That is Sri Rama, then Kusha's grandson. I mean, Sri Rama, Kusha's son, and Kusha's grandson is Brihat Bala. So you can see a chronological continuity from Sri Rama. And then after defeating Brihat Bala and then also Nishada Raja. So these are all done by Bhimasena. I mean, we are talking about Mahabharata. It's not Ramayana. We are talking about Mahabharata. So here Bhima comes and defeat the Nishada Raja, that is Rama's friend, Guha's descendant. And here he comes and defeats Rama's own descendant, that is Rama, Kusha's son, Kusha's grandson, Brihatbala. After then he goes to Ayodhya and there was a different king ruling there, Dirgha Prajna. So there is a history for that because if you read Valmiki Ramayana, towards the end, it mentioned that Lava and Kusha were established as new kings, and each of them are established. One is Lava established in the Sravasti in the Uttara Kosala, and then there is a Kusha. He is Kushavadi. There is a city called Kushavadi. I think I have not mentioned here because this is about Bhima Digvijaja. So Kushavadi, there are two locations. One is to the south, very close to the Vindhya mountains. Another is to the east in the Bihar region, in the Gopalakacha region, very close to Uttaramalla, etc. Anyway, the Kusha have a different diverse. Kusha is more successful, so he got different branching Raj kings. Lava is just in the north in the Sravasti. So then question comes, why none of them ruled Ayodhya? Because typically successor king should rule in the same city, right? So what happened is, again, it is in the Uttarakanda of Valmiki Ramayana. There is a very clear indication that the city got completely submerged under the Sarayu River. It is a very cryptical poetic narrative where it mentioned Rama submerged into the Sarayu, then Bharata submerged into Sarayu, Lakshmana submerged into Sarayu, and then last line you say entire citizen submerged into Sarayu. So basically, this is a very historical because in the flood records of Ayodhya, you can see a big flood happening inside the in the Ayodhya city because of the change of course of Sarayu River. A great flood happened somewhere between 1950 BC to 1850 BC. So basically, this is actually referring to that flood, and the Ayodhya completely got destroyed. This is the reason why the subsequent king, Lava and Kusha, didn't rule Ayodhya. That is the reason, because otherwise it is very unnatural. So Lava is established at Uttara Kosala and Kusha is established at Dakshina Kosala. But of course, there is another branch in the Purva Kosala, which again descendants of Kusha ruled there. So nobody ruled Ayodhya. Ayodhya completely destroyed. So when this Ayodhya got restored, so I did that. That is another important activity I did in the Geography of Mahabharata book, where I found out that this is done by a king called Dirgha Prajna. And this Dirgha Prajna was ruling somewhere after the this abduction of. See, there is another event, reference event, where Bhishma Pitamaha goes and abduct the princess of Kashi. This is Kashi. Amba, Ambika, Ambalika. So three princes of Kashi were abducted from the this Varanasi. And at that time, there was Ayodhya was still not restored. Ayodhya was in a condition completely destroyed situation. And that time, the affairs of Ayodhya was handled by Kashi kings, because Kashi kings are very close relatives of Ayodhya kings. Even within the Valmiki Ramayana, it is mentioned Rama's uncle. The uncle was ruling in Kashi. And there is a king called Pradardhana ruling in Kashi, contemporary to Rama. All these are mentioned actually in the Valmiki Ramayana. And Kausalya is basically a sister of Rama's uncle. That is why he is called Rama's uncle, right? Basically, because sister's brother is uncle. Matula, Rama's Matula. So Rama's Matula was ruling in Kashi. So when Ayodhya got submerged, and because of that submergence, it caused the demise of Rama, the Bharata and Lakshmana. Three brothers got demised. Their Swargarahana happened because of that flood. And Shatrughna was ruling in the Mathura at that time. So he alone comes and sees that everything got destroyed. And Shatrughna said, my three brothers are all done, all submerged into the Sarayu. So I am also dying. Like that comes. So Shatrughna also submerged into the Sarayu. And four brothers ended their life. But their descendants, they started ruling. That is Rama's children. Lava ruled in the Uttara Kosala in Sravasti, and Kusha ruled in Kushavadi in the southern Kosala. So subsequently, the Kashi kings took the control of the Kosala, that is Ayodhya, and the kingdom became Kashi Kosala. This entire kingdom became Kashi Kosala. So that is why we say, I mean, in the Mahabharata, this Amba, Ambika, Ambaliga, all three are called Kausalya. Very strange, right? Because Kausalya, typically we think that it's a personal name. It is not a personal name. It is because the princess is coming from Kosala. That princess is called Kausalya. So this Dasharatha, the first wife, coming from she is from Kosala. So within the Kosala region, that is why she is called Kausalya. And similarly, this princesses Amba, Ambika, Ambalika, all three are called Kausalya because this Kashi and Kausala are both combined into a single kingdom. And instead of calling them Kashya, they are traditionally called Kausalya. So that is the reason why Rama's mother is also Kausalya, and Pandu and Dhritarashtra's mothers, they are also Kausalya. And this is why there is a very interesting epithet for Pandu called Kausalyananda Vardhana. So, different kings have different epithets. So, one of the important epithet that you can see throughout in the Valmiki Ramayana, Rama is called Kausalyananda Vardhana, which means he is increasing the delight of Mother Kausalya. Same epithet is used in the Mahabharata for Pandu. You can look at the Adhyayas in the Adiparva, where Pandu Digvijaya, everything is explained. So, after the Digvijaya, Pandu comes with a lot of wealth and hand it over to Bhishma Pitamaha. And then he is praised as Kausalyananda Vardhana. Same epithet. Just like Rama is praised as Kausalyananda Vardhana, Pandu is also praised as Kausalyananda Vardhana. So here I will come and tell one more important aspect. This is how we begin. Now this is where we begin. Now we leaving geography. I will say this is the starting point of the influence of Sri Rama, which we can see in the Mahabharata. Pandu is directly influenced. So I will say this is natural because see, whenever you do a Digvijaya, you comes in with great wealth, and then people are praising you as a Kausalyananda Vardhana, etc. And naturally, the Rama's period, which anyway, many people who have seen my first this talk on the Rigveda, they will understand Rama is contemporary to Shantanu. Shantanu is the grandfather of Pandu. So Rama is something like a grandfather to, just like a grandfather to Pandu actually. So naturally, and he is a contemporary of Shantanu. And of course, both Ramayana and Mahabharata have maintained a very strategic silence between the two itihasas. So you don't see anything like in the this like Bhishma Pitamaha referring to Sri Rama or Satyavati talking about Sri Rama, etc. But it is understood. It is silently understood by between Vyasa and Valmiki that these kings were all known to each other, and that the evidence is not directly given because there is a strategic silence between the Mahabharata authors and Ramayana authors, so that you don't too much of talk about each other. No, that is some kind of, because it's Kavya's interference get minimized. Both Itihasas interference get minimized. So this is, but you can read it through signatures, some very very subtle signatures. So that is the reason why the Kausalyananda Vardhana is, Vyasa very carefully put that Kausalyananda Vardhana to describe Pandu. And when you read between the lines, you know that Pandu was highly influenced and considered Sri Rama as a role model. Because automatically, anyway, his mother is also Kausalya, Rama's mother also Kausalya. So, and Rama is a grandfather figure, somebody who lived during the Shantanu's lifetime. So he was completely influenced. And how do we find out? Because the way Pandu conducted himself, that he was very effortlessly handing over the kingdom to Dhritarashtra. And there is a big story to it, right? Because when they, after the abduction of Amba, Ambika, Ambalika from Kashi, and at that time the Ayodhya was missing. Ayodhya was in a submerged situation, and still it is not repaired. Ayodhya is still not repaired and re-established. So after that, Amba went away. She wanted to marry Salva, and then Bhishma sent her away. Then Ambika and Ambalika became the wife of the Vichitravirya, the son of Shantanu. So Shantanu's son Vichitravirya married two Kausalyas, and through Vyasa he got two children. That is this Dhritarashtra and Pandu. Of course, Vidura also. So in my analysis, Vidura is the eldest one. That you can see in my book. I don't want to explain detail. And of the eldest one is Vidura, and then you have Dhritarashtra, and the youngest one is Pandu. But because Dhritarashtra is a blind person, it was decided Pandu become king. Right? So Pandu got the kingdom, and he could have easily ruled and lived like a king forever and handed over the kingdom to his own children. But then, because he was highly influenced by Rama and the forest life of Sri Rama, everything. So when certain situation came in his life, which I explained in detail because it's too much for this particular session, he was very effortlessly. He just because he got all the wealth and the kingdom, the Kuru kingdom was in a good shape. So, if the King Dhritarashtra was ruling the kingdom, then all these things are not possible because he is blind. He is having a lot of strength, stamina, everything, but he can't lead an army, defeat kings, etc. But Pandu took the leadership and he did all the things required for the kingdom to prosper and give all the wealth to Bhishma. And then he knows that, like his father, I mean, his brother, elder brother, Dhritarashtra should be the king and he will take a decision himself. So it's a Rama's case means it is a Varadan. There is a kind of Kaikeyi's Varadan that is born from Dasharatha and fulfill as a fulfillment of that boon, Rama has to live. Here, this is self decision. Pandu thought like it's not very correct that I continue rule and all. So he handed over the kingdom to Dhritarashtra without any problem, and then he went with his two wives. He went into the forest. So here again, you can see that no that connections happening. Like Pandu's mother, the Kausalya, designated a Kausalya. Pandu is called Kausalya Nandavardhana, and finally Pandu goes to the forest, just like Sri Rama. Just like Sri Rama, he got the epithet Kausalyanandavardhana. Just like Sri Rama, he got his mother Kausalya, that is Ambalika. And just like Sri Rama, he went to the forest. So that influence is very complete and clear. And we will revisit it later also. So I'm just looking at. So this is the what now after Bhima Digvijaya, I'm showing Arjuna Digvijaya where he goes to the Himalayas, all these Ambojas and Daradas, Uttara Rishikas, Parama Rishikas, Ladakh. The Ladakh is Ladakh actually. Then Loh is Leh city, and then he goes to the not the, that he goes to this Uttarakuru, that is the Kailas Manasarovar region. All this this Arjuna does all these things actually. So you can see all these things like he travels starting from the Indraprastha towards northward. So the four brothers of Pandavas, four brothers of Yudhishthira travel in four directions. Arjuna into the north, Bhima to the east. So that is why he goes to Ayodhya and defeats the Dirgha Prajna ruling there. So I missed one point. So Dirgha Prajna is the king who re-established Ayodhya after his submergence into the Sarayu river. And this event happened after the abduction, that Amba Ambiga, Ambaliga, they were abducted. After that abduction, and the Pandu Digvijaya, after Pandu's Digvijaya. So between Pandu's lifetime and between the rise of Yudhishthira, the Ayodhya was re-established. So chronologically, if you look at the Ayodhya returns, so the Ayodhya which got submerged after Rama's lifetime was re-established by Dirgha Prajna somewhere very close to when Yudhishthira became the king. That is why during the Digvijaya, Bhima has to defeat Ayodhya. If it was earlier, like Pandu had no reason to defeat Ayodhya because there was no Ayodhya at that time because it was submerged. Bhishma had no reason to defeat Ayodhya because again it was submerged. So during Bhishma's time and Pandu's time, what I'm saying is the youthful period of Bhishma or Pandu, Ayodhya was submerged condition. But when the Pandavas become youthful, when they become adult, that Ayodhya was again returned. Again it got established by king called Dirgha Prajna. So that is why Bhima has to defeat both the descendant of that Kusha's descendant Brihat in the southern Kosala, as well as Dirgha Prajna ruling in Ayodhya. Bhima defeated both of them. I like that. And then Nakula goes to the west and Sahadeva go to the south. Again, Sahadeva sent a messenger to Vibhishana. So you can see the how many number of connections I have now mentioned between Ramayana and Mahabharata. So Bhima's connection with the Ramayana because he defeated Ayodhya. Sahadeva's connection with Ramayana because he sent a messenger from Bhrugaksha to Lanka and the Vibhishana ruling there. And then Yudhishthira connection because Yudhishthira met Markandeya who also met Rama. Bhima's again connection, Bhima met Hanuman who also met Rama. So it is connections and after connections. Then entire all the Pandavas together lived with Vaisravana. So again connection. So many connections I can show you. Now we will move. So this is actually related to the Bhima, Krishna, and Arjuna. The three people went and defeating the Jarasandha at Girivraja, the capital of Magadha. All this. See, this is how they traveled from Indraprastha to Mithila. Again, Mithila is coming from Ramayana, right? That same Mithila is continuing in Mahabharata. So Bhima went to Mithila, and from there he, in a stealth route, he goes to Girivraja and kills Jarasandha. And Mithila is very important in the Mahabharata. I am talking about Mahabharata here. No, Mithila is typically a city in the Ramayana. I am talking about Mahabharata here. So in the Mithila is the place where Bhima got the education. Balarama came here at Mithila, and Balarama taught advanced mace fight for Duryodhana and Bhima at Mithila. That is the importance of Mithila in the Mahabharata. This is why these people from Indraprastha, they directly go to Mithila instead of not going to Girivaraja. Because there are certain secret army they have set up there at Mithila in case anything wrong happens in the Girivaraja, in the Magadha. So they set up the army because only three people are going into Girivaraja: Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima. So they can get killed. So that is the reason why the standing army was established in Mithila, because Bhima have a lot of familiarity in Mithila because he got the advanced mace fight education in Mithila, where Balarama came and taught both Duryodhana and Bhima the advanced mace fight, Gada Yuddha. So you can see innumerable number of connection. So this is the Dwaraka of Sri Krishna and the Raivataka mountain and then Madhavi Tirtha, two places mentioned in the Mahabharata, which are very close to the Dwaraka city. And no, people say Girnar is the Raivataka. Not possible because Mahabharata mentioned the city of Dwaraka is just under the foothill of Raivataka Parvata. So it cannot be kilometers away. Just like in the situation of Lanka, where Ravana was able to see the army of Vanaras coming and camping in the seashore. So it cannot be the Sri Lanka large big island where the Kandy, the central Sri Lanka, the Ravana's capital and palace. From there, he cannot look into the seashore. It is like saying that I will from Delhi I can see the Gujarat seashore. No, even it's not possible. So these are all small islands. So both the Lanka city was a small island in the mouth of Narmada, and this Dwaraka was a small island in the mouth of Saraswati. So these are all the mouths of Saraswati. Saraswati river and coming and draining in the Ran of Kutch. So this is where the Dholavira is there. So this Kadarbed island contains both the Raivataka mountain and the Dwaraka city. That is a Dholavira. The Dwaraka city is nothing other than Dholavira, and there is a Tirtha named Madhavi Tirtha, not very famous because people always talk about Dwaraka and Raivataka, forget about Madhavi Tirtha. So that Madhavi Tirtha is also located in the place. So this is the kind of political influence of the Magadha King Jarasandha, which the Bhima destroyed. So that is what we are seeing here. So you can see there are numerous maps here. This is the early travel of the Pandavas, that they traveling from Eka Chakra to marry for this Kampilya, the capital city of Panchala, to marry the Draupadi. So those, and how they traveled from Varanavata, where they were tried to be killed by the House of Lac. That Varanavata, today it is known as Barnava. So from Varanavata, they meet Hidimbi, and by the way, there is a river named Hidimbi River in the as a tributary of Yamuna. There is a Hidimba River. Today also you can see that. So these are all history. Hidimba, they are all history. And then they go to Eka Chakra, and then from there they went to Kampilya to marry the Panchali and all these things. So this is that Arjuna in their education period, for the sake of Drona coming and defeating the Ahichatra, and then Drupada shifting from Ahichatra to Kampilya, so two capital cities. Then Drona's son Ashwathama ruled in Ahichatra, all these things. Again, this is that birthplace of Pandavas, Pandava Janmasthan, that Hamsagoda and the Shatasringa mountain, the South Gandiga. So that it's a very close where the Hanuman, the Pandavas were born in a place very close to where Hanuman was doing tabas after the Rama Ravana war. So that is why the Bhima comes and meets Hanuman. And there is a very strange play happening between Hanuman and Bhima. Hanuman preventing the Bhima to somehow not to go to the Janmasthan, the Pandava Janmasthan. He blocks the Pandava Janmasthan and ask Hanuman to move northwards to Alagapuri. The Alagapuri, this is the Google map. And you can see the Alagapuri here, Alagapuri. So that is the city of Kubera. So how many number of connections I mentioned? I am talking about Alagapuri of Vaisravana during the Pandava's lifetime. I am talking about. And then I'm talking about Hanuman. I'm again, it is Mahabharata I'm talking about. And then the Pandava Janmasthan here, Shadopant Lake, the Shadasranga, that Indradumna Lake is called Shadapant Lake now. The Pandava Janmasthan. That is where the place where Pandavas were born. All these things. So here is actually the Karna related geographical map where the Kunti gets the Karna as a newborn child and he moves from Ashwa river to Charmannavadi, Charmannavadi to Yamuna, Yamuna to Ganga, it's all this meta narrative. And this is like how the Pandu, after leaving the kingdom, just like Rama after leaving kingdom went to southwards towards Vindhya and meet the Vanaras. Pandu does the opposite. After leaving kingdom, he went northwards and he lived in Shadashringa along along with the Kinnaras. So you can see the symmetry there. Rama going southwards to meet Vanaras at Vindhya, and Pandu going northwards into the Himalayas and living along with the Kinnaras and Yaksha Gandharvas, all these people. So, and the Rishi Munis also. And this is the Pandu Digvijaya related. I mentioned the the Pandus related places like. So this is why he doesn't. Ayodhya is not there in that list. Ayodhya is missing because it is submerged situation. So Pandu goes to Kundi Rashtra. So Kundi is the name of a Rashtra. No? It is a Janapada name. Original name of that princess is called Pritha. Vasudeva's sister Pritha. She is famous as Kundi because she comes from the Kundi Rashtra. Kundi Rashtra is a kingdom name. So the Pandu goes to Kundi Rashtra, Dasharna, then Magadha, Videha. Again, Videha and Mithila comes na. From the Ramayana, the places. By the way, Magadha is also part of Ramayana. And the rivers I am talking about now. Whatever is famous in Mahabharata, like kingdoms like Magadha, is also mentioned in Ramayana. Then he goes to Pundra, all these things. Then Madra Desha and Gandhara Desha. From there, Madra, he got a second wife, Madri. And Gandhara is from where Gandhari comes and marries Dhritarashtra. So all these connections. This is the slide for Pratibha and Shantanu. So basically, they were living in the Asandi, the Kuru. Their ancestor Kuru was living in Asandi. From there, Pratibha established Varanavati, and little more eastwards, you see Shantanu establishing Hastinapura. So again, here there is a connection. It is a reverse connection. Because in the Ramayana, Kuru Jangala is mentioned. That is the place named after Kuru. So this is another evidence to say that Rama lived later to Kuru. So of course, Kuru is in the Chandravamsha, Rama is in the Surya Vamsha. But chronologically, because in the Valmiki Ramayana, the places contemporary to Sri Rama are mentioned in that list. You have Kuru Jangala, named after King Kuru, directly mentioned in the Valmiki Ramayana as contemporary to Sri Rama. That means Rama cannot live older than King Kuru. King Kuru is an ancestor of Pratibha and Shantanu. Pratibha is the father, Shantanu is the son. So Pratibha's fourth generation ancestor is Kuru. So Rama cannot be older than Kuru is very clear. So that is another important aspect defining the chronology of Ramayana and Mahabharata. And then you have after Kuru, you have the Kuru ruling at Asandi. Today it is known as Asand. And you have a lot of archaeological excavations happened there. Then you have Varanavati, again archaeologically excavated, Varnava, and you have Hastinapura, again archaeologically excavated. They're very close to 2000 BC to the Hastinapura is around 1800 BC. The oldest records in Hastinapura you can get. Varanavati also in that range 1900 BC. Plus or minus 100 years is normal. So between 2000 to 1800 BC, you have Hastinapura here, and Varanavati and Asandi, all these places are there. And you can see an eastward migration. Kuru in Asandi, then Vara in Varanavati for Pratibha, and then his next generation, Hastinapura, Shantanu in Hastinapura. And again, Hastinapura is mentioned in the Ramayana as contemporary to Sri Rama. So typically, this is another indication that Sri Rama is contemporary, minimum contemporary to Shantanu. That is again very clear directly from the comparison of Ramayana and Mahabharata. It is very clear. The Sri Rama lived during the lifetime of Shantanu. Otherwise, there is no Hastinapura. Archaeologically, you don't see anything in Hastinapura older than 2000 BC. So, there is one data point inside the Mahabharata, which is a spurious addition, where a king called Hasti is mentioned as establishing Hastinapura, but that has that found to be bogus, because there is a double lineage narrative in there, the Mahabharata. The real kings who are not insertions are present in both the lineages, whereas spurious kings who are just random additions of later poets, they will be missing in one of the narrative, one of the lineage narrative. So Hasti is a kind of a spurious king who is not present in the two lineages. Two lineages in different adhyayas are mentioned in the Mahabharata, and we are actually comparing all the people mentioned in both the lineages. They are the strongest, realistic and strongest kings. Others are doubtful kings, and Hasti is a spurious addition. So there is no Hasti. Hasti is not a real king. So the real establisher of Hastinapura is Shantanu himself. And that establishing of Hastinapura on the Ganga is poetically mentioned as Shantanu marrying Ganga. So no king can marry a river. But what is actually happening? It is a poetic, cryptic, poetic message. It says that this king established on this river. So when Shantanu comes and established a Hastinapura in Ganga, then the poet will praise. There is like a bard, no, poet like are like bards. They will come and praise. Now this Shantanu married Ganga. So that meaning you have to understand. It is you have to decipher the meaning. And you may be thinking that I am just bluffing or taking. I mean, it's just a random coincidence. No, because Ganga's older name is Jahnavi, and Jahnavi, you know what is Jahnavi? Because Vishwamitra in the early Rigvedic Vishwamitra, who was the advisor of Sudas, he came and defeated the territories along the on the Ganga river, and then that time the new name of Ganga is Jahnavi, and he named it after his ancestor Jannu. Jahnavi means daughter of Jannu. So it's another political statement that now the Kushikas are ruling the Ganga region, and we are actually the authority of Ganga. Hence, I am naming Ganga as Jahnavi, and Jannu is my ancestor, and Jahnavi means the daughter of Jannu. So Ganga henceforth will be known as daughter of Jannu. That is, she will be named after my ancestor Jannu. That is Jahnavi name of Ganga. Again, it's a political statement. And later on, the Ikshwakus came and established their dominance along Ganga. And then the name of Ganga became Bhagirathi, because the king Bhagiratha comes and established the political dominance over Ganga. Automatically, Ganga got another name, Bhagirathi. Now, there is no specific noun for wife of Shantanu, but the poet says that Ganga is a wife of Shantanu. That is when the Kuru started dominating Ganga. So that is Shantanu started dominating Ganga and established his city Hastinapura on Ganga. That time onwards, Ganga is known as wife of Shantanu. So it's all political statements. So there are three political statements already. So you can't just dismiss it. And whenever the new dynasty comes and dominates Ganga, Ganga gets a new name. Jahnavi when the Kushikas were dominating, Bhagirathi when the Ikshwakus were dominating, and Ganga become wife of Shantanu when Shantanu was dominating it, like that. So you have so similarly you have like like this is I think not very relevant. I mentioned about in the book Rivers of Rigveda and my the second talk about the Rigveda, where there was a lot of events happening in the Rigvedic period, where one of the ancestor of Pandavas, that is even ancestral even to Kuru, the Samvarana, who meant migrated. He was forced by the Panchalas to go westwards, And then he was mentioned in the Mahabharata as a Paurava, but in the Rigveda as a Puru. So that king caused one of the reasons for the Dasharajana battle. He fought the Dasharajana battle where Sudas was his opponent, and his ally was a king called Kavi Chayamana, who belonged to the Anava, the Daitya Danava tribe. So these are all not very relevant. I have now mentioned a lot of things. Yeah. Then you have the Uparichara Vasu in a very interesting king. And when we do a cross comparison, what we found is the Uparichara Vasu is a even further ancestor. He's a very this Uparichara Vasu. We actually found he is a contemporary to Dasharatha, like that. So then automatically you have Uparicharita, this sorry, as an ancestor to the Pradipa, and then Uparicharita Vasu's one of the daughter is Satyavati, who marries Shantanu. So they are all matching. The chronology is matching perfectly well. When we consider Uparicharita Vasu, the king of Chedi, as a contemporary to the Pradipa, the Shantanu's father. So this is all another interesting thing where there is a connection between these two, the Ramayana, Rama's era and Mahabharata era actually. And you have the early part of the Mahabharata. We typically have narratives related to Janamejaya. So this particular map shows the narratives related to Janamejaya. You can see Takshashila, Samantapanjaka, Kurukshetra, Hastinapura, Naimisharanya, where the Mahabharata is authored. So Naimisharanya has another connection with Valmiki Ramayana because it is the same location where Lava and Kusha came to meet Rama. And along with the Valmiki, they narrated the Valmiki Ramayana to Rama. Valmiki Ramayana up to the point of coronation of Rama. So Sita was listening, Valmiki was listening. Lava and Kusha narrated the Valmiki Ramayana up to Yuddha Kanda to Sri Rama himself. That happened in Naimisharanya. And the same Naimisharanya, you have Mahabharata narrated by Ugrasrava Sauti to Shaunaka. So both the Mahabharata and the Ramayana are narrated at the Naimisharanya. Again, you have a connection between Naimisharanya connects both Ramayana and Mahabharata, like that. So this is something related to the chronology, why the 2000 BC to 1500 BC period is the most probable date. Why I mentioned about archaeological records, etc. And there are certain problems related to other dates for both Rama and the Pandavas in 3000 BC and 556 BC, etc. And it cannot be later than 1500 BC because of so many Kartika autumn connections. These are very complicated points, so I don't want to delve more on this. But there are definitely separate talks on this. And you can see, the geography of how the geography slowly incrementally increases. So I get very clearly after removing all the anomalies and late traditions inside the Ramayana and Mahabharata, because Rigveda doesn't have any late tradition. It is very pure text. But Ramayana and Mahabharata have late traditions up to Gupta era, Sundra Gupta period. So we have to subtract whatever is added, during the contemporary period of Rama and Pandava. After that, for hundreds of years, so many things are added. But if you subtract all the later addition geography, you get a very clear gradient, a clear incremental step. Rigvedic geography, you can see the innermost region. Then the Ramayana geography almost covering half of India, and slightly the Mahabharata geography covering 75% of India. Now some people ask, there is a empty region there, South India, but there is a question mark because I didn't completely remove that. But subject to so many evidences that we have yet to get, that southern India may or may not be part of the Mahabharata geography, because there is very clear indication of iron presence inside South India, even in 3000 BC. So it is 100% clear that there were kings and there were people and great kingdoms in the South India while Rama and Pandava were ruling. But only question is whether they really went there. So there is a double 50-50 chances. I mentioned both the reasons, both possibility and non-possibility. Both are explored in the two books. That is Geography of Ramayana and Geography of Mahabharata, like that. And like maybe I will end in some 5 minutes. That because when you do a cross comparison, there is a lot of advantages, and this is one of the advantages, right? Because some of the kings are are signature mark. For example, the Kuru lineage, Parikshit, Janamejaya, like that. So this Kuru lineage have different landmark kings, iconic kings like Parikshit is mentioned in Atharvaveda, and the great grandson of Parikshit, the Ashwamedha Datta, is mentioned as the last king in Mahabharata. But in the Puranas, which was continuously edited even after Mahabharata period, even after the lifetime of the Janamejaya, Puranas were edited. So you get the kings like Shemaga, 25th descendant of Ashwamedha Datta, Shemaga, everything mentioned in the Puranas. Then Nandas, Mauryas, Sungas, Guptas, all of them are mentioned in the Puranas. And some Purana have temples mentioned in the 12th and 15th century. And the last Purana, Bhavishya Purana, you have Queen Victoria also mentioned in the 1900 CE. So that is how the different text span. Atharvaveda is the youngest Veda. So 17, the Parikshit is also mentioned in the Atharvaveda. That is a descendant of Pandavas. Now, if you look at the earlier, Rigveda, you have Shantanu mentioned as a last king in the Kuru region. But Rigveda doesn't mention the Dhritarashtra and Vichitravirya. But then Yajurveda mentioned Vichitravirya and Dhritarashtra. So you can see that there is a continuity, right? And then the other Veda you have Parikshit, which is like a descendant of Pandavas. And Mahabharata have the great grandson of the Parikshit, that is as a last king. And beyond that, it is not mentioning anything. But the Puranas mention Shamaga, who is the 24th descendant. So very, very clear. And now this is another thing, very kind of a disappointment for maybe people who want to exaggerate chronology. We don't have enough generations. There are only 28 generations between Parikshits and Shamaka. So you can't exaggerate it like 556 and BC Kurukshetra or etc. It's impossible because you have to there is only 28 generations. From Parikshit to Shamaka, there is only 28 generations. And why I'm keep on repeating Shamaga? He is actually the king who ruled during the Mahabhatmananda's lifetime. And Mahabhatmananda is the one who defeated the Kurus, Panchalas, everybody, and established the Magadha Empire. And soon after Mahabhatmananda, you have Dhanananda, and after that, Narananda is defeated by Chandragupta Maurya. So your clear historical chronologies are starting from Mahabhatmananda and Chandragupta Maurya onwards. And you don't have too much of past centuries reaching up to Parikshit. It cannot be more than some 1,500 years. If you put it more than 5,000, 1,500 years, you are actually diluting the chronology. You are putting water into the essence of the chronology actually. Similar situation is between Manu and Parikshit also. Like there are only 48 generations between Manu. The only 44 generations between Manu. Manu is here, no, fifth point. Like Daksha, Didi, Vivasvat, Manu, then Ila, Pururava, Ayush, Nakusha, Yayati, Puru, like that it goes. And then you have the Pandavas and then Abhimanyu, Parikshit. So you have only 44 generation. So if you locate a particular Kurukshetra or in a particular date, then you automatically give a date for Manu also. And there are not many generations between them. Though these are all the kind of problems in the chronology. And this is, I have basically mentioned that every Itihas saga have three components: philosophy, magical narratives, and the real data, that is the historical factual data. So our history and geography is based on factual data. Philosophy is basically for the Rishi Munis and also for the general audience. And poetic magical narratives, these are resulting into devotion and bhakti, and also the poetry, the kavya, alankara, all these things. So we are actually aware of all these three components. Just because we are focusing on factual data doesn't mean that we rejected the philosophy or the magical narratives. So that is another important point I want to mention. Yeah. So yeah, this is overall the content inside the book. But anybody who want to read the book Geography of Mahabharata, available in Amazon and all over the world. In India, it is Amazon India. But if it is in UK, it is Amazon.uk. So any country you can buy these books. It contains 540 Janapadas instead of the 60 Janapada we are taught in schools and colleges. 540 Janapadas and their maps, the travel narratives into those Janapadas, hundreds of cities and villages, 230 rivers. In the Rigveda book, I have identified only 31 rivers. Here it is 230 rivers I have to handle. Then 110, 100 mountain ranges, and then forest regions and holy spots, Tirtha Yatra, Tirtha Sthana. All these are mentioned in the book. And every major and minor events in the life of Pandavas, everything is there. And it's a two-volume book, even though the book is titled Geography of Mahabharata, there is a volume 1 and 2. And it's a kind of, as I mentioned, Hanuman, Parashurama, and others, both mentioned in Ramayana and Mahabharata. You can see here. And Nalopakhyana, Ramopakhyana of 18 chapters, Satyavan Savitri, all these are inside there. And the realistic age of the Pandavas, Bhishma, Drona, Vyasa. We didn't touch this point because of want of time, but I can give a single information. The direct statement inside the Yuddha Parva, Drona Parva of Mahabharata says Dronacharya is 85 years when he was fighting Kurukshetra war. So then you can use that as a reference point to get the realistic date of Pandavas and Bhishma, Pitama, everybody. Because if Drona is 85 years of age, Pandavas cannot be 85 years of age. Some people calculated and say Pandavas were 85 years of age during the Kurukshetra war. No, that is false, because Drona himself is only 85 years. And I get the realistic date period, in the Pandavas were in their 40s. That is between 40 to 50 years of age. And Krishna was also in the 40 to 50 years of age. And Bhishma Pitamaha was somewhere close to 100 years of age. So this is the information I get actually. And so many people like Vishal Agarwal, Ajay Chaturvedi, Manojji, Dr. Conrad Elst, and our lawyer, great lawyer, Sai Deepak, Dr. Raj Vedam, all these people have mentioned a lot about this book. And we are actually solving history here. So please look at these books in the form of solution to history and our chronology problem, because the mainstream historians did a bad job of saying that grandfather is mythological, but son is historical. So I am actually addressing that nonsense and correcting the history. So if you are from a devotional point of view, if you are reading the book in a devotional point of view, you may be not in the correct state of mind, because we are addressing chronology, we are addressing geography here. So we don't use the concepts like Chiranjeevi, etc. here. And so this is a kind of problem statement. The eminent historians of India forced us to believe that only the kings like Chandragupta Maurya and Mahapadmananda, they are also mentioned in the Puranas, right? They are Puranic kings, but they are considered historical. But there any king earlier than them like Janamejaya, Parikshit, Yudhishthira, Pandu, Ujitra, Shantanu, Sri Rama, Dasharatha, Pardipa, Kuru, Bharata, or Puru, Yayadi, Nakusha, Ayus, Pururavas, or Manu, they are considered mythological. So that is what I am addressing. I am saying that all of them are historical. And I am actually giving the correct timeline, so that nobody can question like some people were living for thousands of years like Chiranjeevi. So that is the reason why I completely eliminate the concept of Chiranjeevi here, because with the Chiranjeevi concept you cannot prove history. Then your objective is not met. You may be satisfying your devotional requirements, but you are not satisfying the historical chronological analysis requirement when you use that, etc. So here you can see the three books in a nutshell: the Rivers of Rigveda, Geography of Ramayana, and Geography of Mahabharata, authored in succession of 3 years. All of them released in January 2022, 23, and 24. And Geography of Mahabharata released on the Rama Sri Rama Ayodhya coronation day and a consecration day. That I remember very with great happiness. I remember on the day of consecration of Ayodhya, I have released the book Geography of Mahabharata. And there is a very important, because Sri Rama is the connecting thread. I mentioned he is in Rigveda. Sri Rama is in Rigveda 10th mandala. The entire Valmiki Ramayana is about Sri Rama, and again Sri Rama is an influencer in the Mahabharata as well. So this is like so many questions now we have already answered. What was the true age of Vyasa, Bhishma, Drona, Krishna, Pandavas? during the Kurukshetra war? What were they in the early 40s or 80s? I think you got the answer. They were in the 40s. Then, if Rama, Lava, Kusha, everywhere, everybody of these people were alive, what would be their correct age during Kurukshetra war? So I given that dates. Like Rama will be, Leva and Kusha will be in their Vanaprastha period or Sannyasa period at that time. So that's why they are not present in the Mahabharata. Rama is already dead prematurely, around 60 to around 60 to 70 years of age. That flood came and Rama got no, demised, and his Swargarahana happened. Then Parshurama, Hanuman, Markandeya, Durvasa, Vaisravana, Vibhishana, Mainda, Dvipita, Jambavan. All of these are people are present in Rama's life and also in the continue and interact with Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Kundi, Pandavas, Balarama, and Sri Krishna. And then Brihatbala of Kosala we have seen, a descendant of Rama, is defeated by Bhima. And later in the Kurukshetra war, Abhimanyu killed the Brihatbala. Same Brihatbala was killed by Abhimanyu also. And then there are some chronology problems that people get 85 years for the Pandavas during Kurukshetra war because certain chronology problems. Because 13 months of exile of Arjuna, during that period, he married three princesses, Ulupi, Chitrangada, and Subhadra. And it took only 13 months. It is directly mentioned in the Adi Parva of Mahabharata, but in the later Parvas, it is exaggerated as 12 years. So many such exaggerations are there within the Mahabharata. That is why you get a wrong period, a wrong age for the Pandavas, like they were in the 80s and during they were in 80s means what? They are like old and like old age. That is not true because we know they were fighting in their prime youth, and that is because they were in their 40s. Because after eliminating all these anomalies, I get the correct period, correct date for the Pandavas. So that is yeah. And then this session, what we have concluded, that is for relevant for students and scholars of ancient Indian history, the Itihasa Purana direction. If you are a fan of Mahabharata or a fan of Ramayana, both of you will be liking it like that. And these are the things that we have focused now how the Ramayana era shaped. So I mentioned about influence on Pandu, like Kausalya Anantavardhana epithet for Rama and Pandu. Pandu goes to forest like Rama goes to forest, and all these things. Their mothers are known as Kausalya. Then Yudhishthira also have that the Yudhishthira also. If you look at the way he very effortlessly ready for going to forest, that actually is a reminiscent of Rama. No? He was also very effortlessly going to the forest. So there is a great influence of Rama on Yudhishthira. The concept of dharma that basically comes from the Rama to Yudhishthira actually. And then the continuity, territorial and political continuities, we have seen. So many we have seen. Like I can't count the number. Like that is Ayodhya's presence in Mahabharata, Sringi Verapura presence in Mahabharata. Even Chitrakuta also mentioned in Mahabharata in the Tirtha Yatra. I forgot to tell about it. And then you have Mithila, all the places in Ramayana you can see in the Mahabharata. And the rivers like Hastinapura is in Ramayana, Kurujangala is in Ramayana as contemporary to the Sri Rama. So that you can very clear that Rama and Pandavas were not separated by huge thousands of years gap. So I mean, it will be a counterintuitive to many people, but after going through this session, you will understand they were very close. And what I have seen is 108 years between the birth of Rama and Pandavas. So there is sufficient time for Rama to live and a premature death in around 70 years. And then there is sufficient time for Ayodhya to disappear into the Sarayu and then recover and return back just before the Bhima Digvijaya and Bhima defeating the Dirgha Prajna, the ruling in Ayodhya and also descendant of Rama, that is Brihatbala. And the key Ramayana site geographical mapping we have seen. And we have seen, I have shown comparative comparison of the forest exiles of Rama, Pandu, and Pandavas, and Rama's moral archetype in the Mahabharata Dharma Shastra as a role model king, a king who has embraced the forest if required. Like, of course, not going to the forest, abandoning the kingdom, but when a necessity comes, you don't hesitate to go to the forest, and that kind of a principle. The principle of sacrifice, like that Pandu has done. Direct influence of Rama. Rama also shown that kind of he asked 100 times. He asked Bharata to rule. No, you rule. No, I don't. I will go to the go to forest and When Bharata came to ask Rama to return, he said, "No, I will continue with forest life. You rule the kingdom." This is not only once and again when Rama was as a living as a king. Also, once he again told to the brother to rule. But that sacrifice, no, that is again Pandu showed that when he handed over the kingdom to Dhritarashtra. And Yudhishthira also, no, of course he has some resistance and protest, but he was not extremely unhappy or sad when Duryodhana was handed over the kingdom. Of course, that we can see. And that is the Rama's moral archetype in the Mahabharata Dharma Shastra that we have. So, like that, now we have concluded the session, 1.5 hours. And now we'll also look for audience kind of interaction if anybody wants interested into it. So this is my fourth talk with the Indus University in this particular series because I missed to count the first talk about the Dharma and science which happened many years ago. But in the current series of the books, this is the fourth talk, and I look forward for more sessions like this with more newer topics. Of course, I am writing two books now. One is the Dharmic Grand Narrative, so that is going to be released next year. And there is another book on the Puranas. I showed you that the continuity, after the what happened after Parikshit and after the great grandson of Parikshit, after Ashwamedha Datta, what happened? It's not there in Mahabharata. It is there only in the Puranas. So here you can see the kings after this Ashwamedha Datta up to Kshemaka. There are certain contemporary kings like Shatanika and Udayana who were ruling during the lifetime of Sri Buddha and Mahavira. There was another king called Nijakshu. He shifted the capital from Hastinapura to Kaushambi, very close to Kashi. So these great events happened. And this Udayana was the hero of the Swapnavasava Datta. That story, that drama, Swapnavasava Datta. Also, this epic narrative continued even after the Pandavas' lifetime. People started continuously creating epics. That is, the Swapnavasavadatta can be considered as a itihasa, where one of the descendant of the Pandavas, the Udayana, is the hero. And after that, then it is again downfall. Basically, Kshemaga was not a very powerful king, so Mahapadma defeated him. And then everything center of gravity shifted to Magadha. You have Mahapadmananda, Dhanananda, and after that you have Chandragupta Maurya. And remaining part is actually the recorded history. So I don't want to stress too much about it, but I have to bridge that gap up to the Mahapadmananda and Chandragupta Maurya. So I am engaged in that kind of activities now, and you will see that release of that book also up to Chandragupta Maurya. I do touch upon the post-Mauryan kings, the Sunga kings and the Gupta kings, somewhere leaving up to 6th century CE, and some developments of mathematics like Madhava and all, and finally the Indian independence and 1947 Indian independence, and finally ending in 2014, where we get the real real independence in a way in 2014 and the last 10 years. So these are all the subject of that book.